of Christian fiction. I am so glad to be here with my sweet, sweet friend, Kimberley Woodhouse. So welcome, Kim. It's so great to have you.
Hi, Trisha.
Okay, I know everyone out there must know who you are, but why don't you just start by telling a little bit about yourself?
A little bit about myself. Okay, so that might be tough. No, I'm
Yeah,
Kimberley Woodhouse. I have been married for 31 years, coming up in December. I know I don't look over 30. You're supposed to say that.
I know, because I've been married 32, but I think we both look like we're in our 30s still. So how is that
Wink,
possible?
wink, wink. Especially with the age of our kids, right?
Yeah.
So I have two amazing kids who are married, and we had our first grandchild a year ago. So I am
Yeah.
Nana now, which is like the best
I'm
thing on
Nana
the
too.
planet.
I'm Nana. Nana all the
Or
way.
Nana the Great. Nana the
Yep. Yep.
Great. I have been writing for a very, very long time, but I've only been published since 2008. And I just turned in I think it was my 34th book, maybe. I lost count.
That's what I
But
was going to ask you. Like, how many books have you written?
yeah, I have a few nonfiction, but the majority of them are fiction. The majority of those are historical with suspense, but I
Yeah.
also have contemporary suspense. So,
Awesome. And your nonfiction, and just really briefly share a little bit about that because it's a really cool story.
well, I actually did not write nonfiction. I want to say intentionally.
Mhm.
I wrote a blog and wrote Bible studies and things like that. But they asked us for our story because the majority of people knew us from Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
Yeah.
And um, so our daughter has a rare nerve disorder, and that was a huge part of our lives. And we were on a bazillion different national TV shows and radio and magazines and all that. So people knew our story. And so people started contacting and said, well, hey, we see that you write. Would you write your story? And I thought, been writing fiction stories, I hadn't thought about writing our story. And it was a beautiful thing. And it was amazing how God just used it to touch a lot of lives. So,
That I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, and I love that the things that ended up being such a hard thing just with your daughter's condition and just the challenges to your family ended up God definitely used that to just reach so many people. And I'm sure we could spend the whole time
Yeah.
talking about that. Which
Pretty
you
much.
just Google it and you're gonna then it says this is awesome.
You can see the story.
So you definitely Google it, definitely check all that out. But today we're talking about a different book. So show us a gem of truth.
They just came. Woohoo.
The cover looks so beautiful. Yes, I love it so much. And
Gorgeous.
that's the Grand Canyon, which is the setting
Yeah.
of the book. And so it touches all my favorite things. Like there's the history woven in, there's the beautiful setting of the Grand Canyon, which we've been there once. And I was a nervous wreck the whole time because all our kids were younger. And I'm like, stay by me. But yes, it's history, but then you have the Native American elements, and then you have this legend. I mean, it's just these layers that you think, okay, it's about this, and then you're like, oh, and then there's this element, and then you get introduced to Chris, and there's this other element, and so I just love just all the layers to the story. It's so fascinating. We'll talk about the characters in a minute because your characters, I have not seen characters like this in a book. We'll talk about that. But let's start with just the basic story premise and why you wanted to write this story.
It's very interesting because this is actually book 2 in the Secrets of the Canyon series. And I just have to plug book 1 just won the Novel of the Year award for the Christian Market Book Award. So that was very cool. But
That is awesome.
that really pumped me up, especially since this one was about to release. But this was actually the one that the story came to me, I think, first, because when we were at the Grand Canyon when my kids were teenagers, so you can tell it's been a while since that trip.
Yeah.
But I remember the historical placard that had said about how the modern day sighting of the Grand Canyon was in the 1540s by the Spanish expedition. So it had the whole story. So I just started digging into that because I thought that was really fascinating. And they were looking for the cities of gold.
Yes.
And so some of them were a little disappointed that, they had a desert and a canyon, but
I love that. I think you put that in the author's note. Was it the author's note that said,
yeah,
they come across this and they're like, oh no, gold. Let's just go.
So what? That's not what we're looking for. But these guys they go into huge amounts of debt in the 1500s. They've been traveling for 6-8 months,
Mhm.
and the small contingency is sent west, and they go west, and they literally stumble upon it. And yes, it was very cool, and they praised God for the canyon, but it wasn't what they were looking for. So my little fiction brain went into high gear, and I was like, well, what if? So I created a fictional legend that goes along with the
Yeah.
actual history, that is part of the canyon. So I gave you a lot of details in the book about what the true history is. And then I created this legend of treasure. So that's part
Yeah.
of it.
And I love that. And so you have, okay, and also talk about the Harvey girls, because this is
Mhm.
another fascinating piece of history that many people don't know about. And I'm like,
Right.
this is so cool. Like, I want to know more about that. Like, that's what I'm saying. You have layer after layer of all these really, really cool elements. So tell us a little bit about that.
You. Well, the Harvey girls have always fascinated me. And first off, it was watching the movie, The Harvey Girls, with Judy Garland, but they didn't really give a whole lot of details about it. I
Yeah.
was just fascinated, like, who were these women? And I remember reading Tracy Peterson's series from Bethany House, and I want to say it was out in the 90s.
I
Was it
have
the
not read
Westward
it. So
Westward Chronicles? Maybe I can't remember the name. Tracy's gonna kill me. No.
sorry, Tracy.
um, but they were fabulous. This 3-book series about the Harvey girls, and I learned so much, and I was fascinated. So when I went to the canyon, I'm buying up every book that I can find
Yeah.
about Fred Harvey and what he did. And he is given credit for basically settling the West, because it was his Harvey girls that ended up marrying all the men. That's all the families that came
That's
out
how
of.
you settle. You can't just have the cowboys out there
Right.
or the
So,
explorers or
so cool. But the Eltavar is the crown jewel of the Harvey Empire. And so it was a really big deal if they were hired to be a Harvey girl at the Eltavar once it was built. And it's still standing. It is the coolest place. And if you go to the Grand Canyon, you've got to go eat at the Eltavar dining room, because the food is fabulous.
that is awesome. So you have Julia, who's a waitress,
Mm-hmm.
and she's a Harvey girl, and she's just got transferred there. And okay, I'm trying. It doesn't give it too much away because it's right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like she's a storyteller, like not in a good way. She's a fibber. She tells a lot of stories. And I'm like, I love this girl. And she is a big fat liar, but I love her. So, like, how did you come up with this? And then you have Chris, who's makes jewelry, and he's very, very shy. Like the contrast between the two. And then, of course, there's Native American characters and other characters that you weave in. But I have never in fiction read like such a contrast, and I don't think I've ever had a main character that I can think of that had that element where she just like she starts talking, and the funny thing is she's almost an unreliable narrator, because all of a sudden, like, I'm thinking she's telling the truth, and then the other person's like, oh, that's fascinating, and then she's like, oh my goodness, I'm lying. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So I just am fascinated by the character of Julia.
Yay! I'm excited that I fascinated Trisha Goyer. That
There
really
we go.
can I fangirl? Okay. But what happened was the scene in the prologue, which is a traumatic event in Julia's life as a
Mm-hmm.
child. That came to me first, and it made me think, what would this do to a young
Mm-hmm.
child, and how is this going to affect her relationships for the rest of her life? How is this going to affect how she moves on and lives? She has to basically
Yeah.
create her own world for her to be able to survive, in these times that she's in. And it's pretty potent to see what happens to her and how she grows and learns. And
Yeah.
she's also challenged, by a friend that says, we love your stories, but you need to make a fresh start. This is a rule of Harvey's, right?
She was just like right at the beginning, like, yeah, pretty close to the beginning, like just like telling her how it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I love her character, because of, you can just see it. And so, I mean, all of us have known somebody that tells great stories, right? But you wouldn't have necessarily called them a liar. But in essence, they're a liar, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, because she'll take sometimes truthful stories and embellish them, but sometimes they're just not even there's not even a gem of truth
Right.
in those stories.
And
And
then
I would say, I
creative.
mean, just adopting kids from trauma too personally,
Yes.
they got to the point where I'm like, you don't need to lie to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is such a lie and I still love you, but it just almost and hers is from a different reason, but it just becomes such a habit, especially
Mm-hmm.
with some of the kids that we adopted, that you almost are surprised if they tell the truth. So
Right.
there is issues that people have, and I think
Right.
that's the fascinating things about exploring characters. People from their backgrounds, and you mentioned that in the prologue, you know right away, and but you don't know for a while. Like you give enough to know that there's trauma there,
Mm-hmm.
but even she doesn't want people to know exactly what happened, and so you have
She doesn't want them to
compassion
know the
for
truth.
her. Yeah, the same time you have compassion and you care about her, and you're like, come on, just stop.
And,
Yeah.
and I was like, don't lie, don't lie. Please tell the truth.
Well,
Please tell the truth.
and
That's
so
what I
then
was
you
yelling at my screen.
yeah, exactly. But then you make yeah, but then you're controlling her. You're controlling
Yes.
what's coming out of her mouth. So how did you figure out, okay, this is who I need this character to be, and then come up with some of the other characters in the book, especially Chris?
Well, I love heroes who are men, but
Mhm.
not always what we think of as the typical cliche Western man, right?
Yeah,
Which is like the cowboy or the rancher or the Texas Ranger, or all of the different things. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I love reading books with that.
yeah,
I've written books with those with those
yeah.
characters. But he just kind of developed on his own as well because of some real history and some real facts that I learned. My best friend from college, I was on a book tour and something had happened to my wedding ring, and a member of her family owns a jewelry shop. And so she's like, okay, let's go get it fixed right now. So
Mhm.
we go to the shop to get it fixed, and I'm fascinated, not with the beautiful glitz and glamour and glass and mirrors and everything that you see on the outside. I was like, can I see the workshop? Because that's where our minds go. It's like, I want to know how
Exactly.
it happens, right? How do you do this? And so he took me back there, and it made me think, for historical, well, what kind of tools did they have back then? So I'm asking all these questions because he's had tables, and just this entire room is just filled with all these hand tools. And he said, well, 100 years ago, they used the exact same tools.
Yeah.
And so I went, oh,
I love it.
so that's kind of where Chris came from, because I thought, what a great thing for him to be a jeweler. And he's
Mhm.
worked really hard to be a master jeweler. He's an introvert, he's quiet. Um, he's seriously into honesty. So you can see that there's a conflict
I love that.
that's coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
Um, but for him, it's a family heritage, because he inherits the shop from his
Mhm.
grandfather. He learned all of this at the side of his grandfather, so this is very much family history for him, and he loves what his grandfather did, and he wants to pour his life into this business, even though there may not be many people who believe in him, but he does a great job. And so I love Chris, and I love Julia, and I love how they go together.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's what makes it so interesting, because when you see their personalities and you're like, "Ooh, this is gonna be fun," like, how are they gonna interact? And then you just wanna keep flipping those pages to see what's gonna happen, because okay, if he's like this and she's like this, something's gonna happen. And then, of course, you have the Grand Canyon, and then you have this legend, and then you have, the Native American aspect. I mean, it's just so much. So I mean, I could talk all day about the book, but we don't wanna give too much away. Let's talk a little bit about the legend too, because I think that's just a fascinating thing that, when it comes to history, different things are happening and there's
Mhm.
searches. I'm trying to figure out how to say stuff without saying too much. Why don't you just share a little bit about this legend that's in the book too?
Well, what I did was I created a legend. So again, there's this real group of men, a huge Spanish
Mhm.
exploration that goes, and then there's a small contingency that is sent west because these men are exhausted. They've been traveling. They've been looking for the cities of gold. They haven't found anything yet. They're wondering, how are we going to survive, the winter? We've run out of money. We've run out of food,
And all this is the truth. Like this stuff really.
That's true.
That's what I'm saying. Like this is real stuff that happened, folks.
That really happened. So when the small contingency gold, my fictional part that I created was that there were 2 brothers that were part of that contingency. And what they had prepared for is, I don't know if you know a whole lot about historical, looking for treasure and all of that, but back then there was very much a mindset of, for you to be given access, what say you found the cities of gold, right?
Yeah.
For you to be given access, how could you have been deemed worthy?
Right.
So these 2 brothers brought all kinds of treasure with them, thinking that this is going to give them access to the cities of gold if they were to find them. So when things get very dire and they realize that they need to get rid of everything except for them and the horse that they're going to ride back, just so they can survive, then they hide the treasure, or the legend is that they hid the treasure somewhere in the Grand Canyon, because I don't know if many of you know this, but within the Grand Canyon, there's cracks and crevices and caves, and you could explore the hundreds of miles of canyon for 100 years and not get to every little nook and cranny. So I just had fun with that. And then I have a villain that this villain just really was a lot of fun. Right.
I actually laughed out loud with the first scene where it switched over to the villain. I literally laughed out loud because just the things he was saying, and I'm like, Kimberly had fun with this guy. Like right away, that's what popped in my mind, because he's just so good.
I know that you are friends with Karen Ball. She's your dear friend. She is my editor, and the book that I just turned in for Bethany House, it comes in. It's the first in what I'm calling my Dino series next year. And my villain is very creepy in the first book. And I got a call from Karen the other day. She goes, "This villain's amazing."
I love that. You like even said it. I could hear her so much when you just said that.
So I really enjoy villains. And what's funny is Karen, over the years, she'll tell me, she goes, "You don't have any edits on your villains." And I've always asked, well, what does that say about me?
I know. I'm like, Kimberly, you seem such like a sweet person. And then you read your villains, you're like, whoa.
A pastor's wife and a pastor's kid, and I write villains. And they're always very different. But I really enjoyed, there's quite a twist with the villain in this book. Just like this series, I think that's what I did, was I had quite a twist with each of the villains in the books, so that's something for the readers to look forward to. But this one, I think I just had a little bit more fun with.
I love it. I literally got so excited when I started reading her.
Yay! Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so give us the name of the first book again, and then when's the official release of this one, A Gem of Truth?
Okay, A Deep Divide as book number 1, and it's out. Gem of Truth officially releases on September 20th.
Yes, because I went to go to the Audible version, because I'm like, I don't want to sit here and read. I want to come on, I want the story. And I'm like, it's not available yet. Okay, September 20th.
They have.
I can wait.
It's the same narrator. I think they're using the same narrator through all the books, I think is what I saw. And she did a great job on A Deep Divide. I've had a lot of people who've written in after they've listened to the audiobook. And so it comes out September 20th. And for any of you guys that are online, I have a wonderful giveaway going on for jewelry, handcrafted jewelry, because it's about a jeweler.
Yes!
Yeah. And a friend of mine, she's a master jeweler, and she created these pieces. You can see them on my website, kimberlywoodhouse.com/pre-order. So if you get in an order you can enter by doing A Deep Divide already, A Gem of Truth, or pre-ordering A Mark of Grace, which is book 3, which comes out in January. You can be entered to win one of these pieces, and they're worth more than $100 a piece.
Okay, so I already pre-ordered the audiobook.
Okay, good.
So I can go over there.
You can enter.
And enter. Sorry, people. Wait, we're going to erase that part about where you can go so I can have a better chance. No,
Okay.
just kidding. Awesome. Oh, and so, okay, a Facebook user. Thank you, Facebook user. I don't know. Thank you. I'm sure I know you in real life, but KimberleyWoodhouse.com pre-order, right? Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Good job.
Good job. Thank you.
Okay, so Marilyn said, I appreciated how you created Chris's character in the
Story.
Okay. I couldn't read the rest of it.
There we go. Can you see it now?
There it is.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you very much. And Diana, I'm excited that you want to read it.
I know. Yay.
Yay.
This is why. Gotta share these books. Get more
Yes.
readers out there. Okay, and what was the third one? Because I got so excited about the jewelry. I forgot.
A Mark of Grace.
Okay.
A Mark of Grace. I had to make sure I had the book title.
Yeah.
Mark of Grace. So it's a deep divide, a gem of truth, a mark of grace.
Yes. And if you forget, you can just go over to Kimberly's website. The books are there, and the cover. Yeah, show the cover again. Because
I will show you the cover. I was going to show you a piece of the jewelry because I realized I had it on my desk.
Oh, good. Yeah, the cover is amazing. I love it so much.
They did a phenomenal job on the cover. So there's 4 different designs that she created just for this book. So I don't know. Can you see that? Here's one.
Yes.
The necklace. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, it's almost like the one that it describes at the beginning, one of the first pieces that he shows.
Yeah.
Oh,
so it's a created ruby, but they're sterling silver necklaces. So there's a couple of different designs, and the grand prize winner wins a pair of earrings to go with them. But there's going to be 4. There's going to be 4 winners, and they're all worth $120.
Oh, pretty! That's almost like the one I have on. I like the
style.
Yeah,
oh, that's beautiful.
My birthstone, ruby.
Oh, yay!
All right, see.
I got to cheer for Trisha now to win, right?
My pre-order. Yeah, no. I better not, because they'll be like, I saw you on that video. Okay, so these are the Grand Canyon books. Love them. I'm so excited. Now I get to go back. So I guess I could ask this, do they have to be read in order? Because I started on the second one without reading the first one.
And that's okay. There are I can talk. There are characters that are connected through the series, but they can each be read as a standalone.
Oh, I think I know who they are because they showed up already. They showed up in book 2.
The first book is Emma Grace.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
And she is an heiress, and her father's been murdered.
Oh, wait.
I'll give that away. She's kind of running away. And book 3 is actually Ruth's story. Ever since A Deep Divide came out, I have had hundreds of letters from readers that have said, we want Ruth to have her own story. So Ruth is in all 3, but her story is book 3, which is A Mark of Grace.
Yay. So fun. Awesome. Okay. Love the characters. Now I'm like, should I pause this one where I'm at? Because I was going to wait for the audiobook anyway and go back to book 1, which is already released. I think I'm going to do that. So fun. Okay. And then you mentioned already, and we just have to talk about this because I am super excited about these. You already mentioned Dino books.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, do you have books releasing between these and the Dino books, or the Dino books?
Yes.
So okay, tell us about the books. Tell us about all the books.
Okay, this one is September 20th, so it's book 2. Book 3 releases in January, A Mark of Grace. Then in March, I have the beginning of a Alaska cyber, it's contemporary suspense series, and it's called 26 Below. So what happens when all the power goes out in Alaska when it hits 26 below? It's very high action suspense. And then in May is Kalispell, book 1 with Tracy. It's called The Heart's Choice.
Okay. What is it? Is it historical or contemporary?
Historical.
Okay.
That's my next one with Tracy. And then September will be the first book in, I call it my Dino series because it's dinosaurs. It's women in paleontology, and so they're historical suspense.
I've already been telling my kids about that. I'm like, my friend, is writing historical novels about dinosaur digs, guys. This is gonna be great.
And I have so many people go, dinosaurs? Oh, I'm buying it. Okay.
I know. Like, yes, if they were ever pre-ordered right now, I would already be clicking on that because it sounds so cool.
Yeah. So, and then in November is book 2 in the cyber series, Alaska, and that one's called 8 Down. There's a serial killer, and he leaves his clues in the crossword puzzle 8 Down.
Oh, whoa. Okay, that sounds kind of fascinating. All right, pretty cool. But I want to jump back to Kalispell real quick.
Yeah.
Because we lived in Kalispell for
I
15
know.
years. So what time period is this in the Kalispell one? Did you do with Tracy?
So what we're doing is we're doing 3 locations. So each book has a special historical location. So book 1 is the Carnegie Library, which was built in 1905. And book 2 is the train depot, which is actually now the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
And then book 3 is the Macintosh Opera House,
Oh,
which is still there, but it's been closed for decades upon decades because there was a fire way back when. And the owner, I contacted the owners of the building, and they let me in, and I got to explore.
Did?
Yes, they're great.
Right there.
So much fun. Very cool.
Love it. Okay, so excited. Okay, and Diana said, I love suspense stories in Alaska.
Yay!
So
Thank you,
basically, I don't know, for those of us, well, I read more than one a month, but even if you only read one book a month, basically Kimberly will fill up all those slots for you on her new releases. And so then if you read more than once a month, you can just go back and find all her other stuff too, which is so great. Okay, so this is a question, out of all the books, like, do you have like one that you feel like is your heart book? You're like a novel that's like, this is the one, like if they've never, of course we want them to read a gem of truth and read a deep divide, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these, is there another one out there that like, okay, this you have to definitely read this Kimberley Woodhouse book?
You know, the one that normally comes to mind, I have 2 actually.
Okay.
But the first one that comes to mind is No Safe Haven, which I wrote with my daughter. And that's contemporary suspense in Alaska. And I think it's so much of my heart because it's a mother and daughter.
Yes.
In the book, and we were mother and daughter. And, you know, it's very much similar.
I remember when Karen first told me about that you were going to be doing that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Karen's amazing. She's so brilliant. The second book I would have to say is Beyond the Silence. And that was, I think, my second book with Tracy. It's been a while now, 10 years or so ago. But we had a character in there named Harry. And we still get letters from people who loved Harry or love Harry, you know, and they just really appreciate this. And he's a minor character, but he has a profound impact on people. So
okay, are you gonna bring Harry back in future books?
Probably not. A lot of people have asked if we would, but it's a special story.
Does
so
Harry
I think
die?
What?
I said, does Harry die? Is that why you can't bring him back?
No,
Okay.
but he would be what we would classify today as special needs. So yeah, he's a really spectacular character.
Oh, I love it. Okay, Beverly said, lots of awesome reading. Excited.
Hi, Beverly.
I love it. Okay, so we have to ask, this is one question I always ask. Okay. As we're wrapping up, which I cannot believe 30 minutes has already gone by.
Oh, wow.
But what are some Christian fiction books that you've read? It could be all-time favorites or something you've read lately. What are some things that you would recommend to a Christian reader?
Obviously, Tricia Goyer.
You don't have to say that. I'm not paying her to say that.
You guys know Tricia, so she's really great. I actually did the audiobook on my elliptical every morning of a Lynn Austin book. I can't remember the name of it. Let me look it up on my phone really quick. It really touched my heart in a big way, and I appreciated it. I also just finished Under the Magnolias. And have you read that one?
On my list. No, but it's on my list.
So, and because I'm Southern, I grew up in the South and was raised in the South, got married in the South. My kids were born in the South. And then we have a daughter who can't sweat. So obviously we moved away from the South, but
Yeah.
I am Southern, and I just appreciated the narrator had the accent. I mean, she's a true Southerner, and she did a wonderful job of it. She did it justice.
I love it. I did read Under the Tulip Tree by Michelle Shockley.
Oh, is that good? I haven't read that one.
Excellent. Yes, it was about during the Depression. I think they hired writers to go record slave narratives, and so it's 2 storylines. It's really good.
Why can't I find this? I wonder if it went off of my phone since I finished it.
Was it Civil War?
No, it was World War II and after, and it was dual timeline. So it's going to drive me nuts now. Watch me. I'm going to search on my other screen here.
Austin,
so good. I love Mary Keneally. She makes me laugh.
Chasing Shadows by Lynn Austin?
No, that one's set in the Netherlands. If I Were You.
If I Were You.
If I Were You.
Okay. All right. I think I purchased this too. I buy so many books.
I do too.
So many books, y'all. Wait, there's that.
Audiobook, Kindle, book.
Yep.
You don't get to see the
shelves. Our bookshelves.
The to be read shelves are so. Yeah, there's probably 1,000 at least books over just on that shelf, and I love to read. Just probably like you, love to read. Yeah. But I have so many now. I don't think I'll ever be able to catch up.
My son came over today, and he thought I was napping. I saw him walk by the door and kind of peek in my bedroom. I'm like, I'm awake. I'm just reading on my Kindle. So,
I love it. I love it. I love how Grace said hello from Alabama. I want to know where you are in Alabama, Grace. My family is all in Alabama. My parents live in Huntsville.
Really?
Yeah. My brother lives in Birmingham. My husband and I actually met in Birmingham, Alabama.
Really?
So that was fun.
I didn't know that.
Arkansas. I'm pretty at a bunch of highs.
Yeah, lots of highs.
Hello, everyone. Sorry. I wasn't looking earlier.
As well. Diana says I have tons of books as well. Oh, so many things. Okay, she said Madison, Alabama.
Oh, that's outside of Huntsville. Oh my goodness.
I like how you say. Wait, say Huntsville again.
Huntsville.
You're missing some letters.
No, that's how you pronounce it. Huntsville. It's not Huntsville.
I know.
It's Huntsville.
Yeah, we live in Arkansas now, and they just forget that they just yeah.
We live in El Dorado, and when we first moved there, I thought it was El Dorado.
Oh yeah, no.
And I got corrected right away. It's El Dorado. El Dorado. El Dorado, Arkansas.
Yep. Yeah.
You got to start picking up the accent now, Trisha.
I know. I do like y'all. But
Amen.
Okay, so Kimberly, tell us again where people can go to find your books, and of course they can pre-order and then be entered to win the amazing jewelry, which would look really good on my neck, but that's okay.
Yeah, it would look good on your neck. It would look fabulous on you, Trisha. So they can go to KimberleyWoodhouse.com. That's just my name. And even if you spell it wrong, it should still redirect you. I think I own every domain with all the different spellings.
All the different Kimberly spellings.
And Kimberly and just Kim Woodhouse. And I think we even have Kimberly and Kayla and Kim and Kayla. And, we have all the different ones. But KimberleyWoodhouse.com, and it'll have all the information. If you click under the books tab, you can see all the different places where you can buy it. Any of the books, you can pretty much buy them wherever books are sold. And if you do the KimberleyWoodhouse.com/pre-order, you can upload a receipt and be entered into the contest for one of the jewelry prizes.
Yay! Awesome. Well, congratulations on more books, and then the more after that, and the more after that, and the more after that too. So congratulations.
I'm trying to keep up with you because you're so cool.
Yo, yeah, I think we're both. I mean, pretty much you got some reading going on right here.
Yes.
That We could do the Trisha Kimberly. You say Tracy.
Yes,
Because you do write some with Tracy, but
I do.
we got you covered on all the ratings. Debbie says, I love both your bookshelves. So everyone loves our bookshelves.
Yay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Kimberly, for being here. And you're awesome. And I'm enjoying your book so much. So you guys have to go read. Hold it up one more time, A Gem of Truth.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll see you all later. Happy reading, everyone.
Thanks, guys.